Let us journey back thousands of years to a time when the destiny of an entire nation was shaped by a man on a divine mission from the Almighty. His name was Moses, a name etched into the annals of history, chosen by fate itself. Moses was not merely a leader, but a beacon of hope in the midst of oppression and despair. With unwavering courage and profound faith in God's guidance, he rose to alter the course of history, a solitary man carrying the weight of an entire people on his shoulders. In the serene atmosphere of the morning, the Nile River flows gently, carrying a small, unassuming basket that holds within it the future of an entire nation. The soft waves shimmer under the morning sun, like beams of hope shining from the heavens above. And within the basket lies a baby named Moses. This child, born into perilous circumstances, will rise from the waters of salvation to become an enduring symbol of hope and resilience, guiding his people through unimaginable trials. On the banks of the Nile, where the water reflects the clear blue sky, an Egyptian princess with a heart full of compassion stumbled upon a drifting basket. In that moment, not just a child was saved, but an entire new future was set in motion. The princess, with her graceful beauty and supreme power, carefully lifted the child, her eyes filled with gentleness and affection. With determination, she decided to bring this child into the opulent palace, where Moses would grow up in the warm yet challenging embrace of royalty. Moses grew up amidst the opulence of the Egyptian palace, surrounded by power and prosperity. Yet, deep within, he always felt a sense of unease, a feeling of not belonging to the place where he lived. As the truth about his origins slowly unraveled, Moses was confronted with a painful reality. He was not of the royal bloodline he had been raised in. In the shadowy corridors of the palace, Moses quietly realized that the blood running through his veins was that of an oppressed people, and with this realization, his heart ignited with a resolve to free his people from the chains of slavery. Atop a desolate mountain, Moses found himself facing a sight beyond comprehension. Before him, a bush blazed with fire, yet miraculously, it was not consumed. This flame was not just a natural phenomenon, but a sign of a divine encounter. From within the flames, the voice of God resounded, entrusting Moses with a monumental mission to liberate his people from the chains of slavery. With the sacred firelight reflecting on his face, Moses felt the power of God surge within him, knowing that he was to shoulder a great task that would require immense courage and unwavering faith. Beneath the grand arches of the Egyptian palace, Moses, no longer a child but a man with a divine mission, stood before Pharaoh's throne. Within him was an unshakable resolve, fueled by the power of his faith in God. Moses did not waver in the face of Pharaoh's absolute authority. He stepped forward and boldly demanded that Pharaoh release the Hebrew people, ending their long years of oppression and suffering. But Pharaoh, in his arrogance and unmatched power, coldly refused Moses' request. In Pharaoh's eyes, there was a disdain, unaware that he was facing the might of God, a power no earthly force could ever conquer. As a dire warning from God, 10 devastating plagues struck Egypt, each one a living nightmare that assaulted Pharaoh's pride and stubbornness. From the Nile turning to blood, to swarms of locusts darkening the sky, each plague was a powerful and inescapable punishment. The land of Egypt trembled under God's wrath, while the Hebrew people saw in these calamities a glimmer of hope that their liberation was near. For Pharaoh and the Egyptians, these plagues were a stark testament that Pharaoh's power was nothing compared to the infinite might of God. At last, under the overwhelming power of God, Pharaoh was forced to yield. He allowed the Hebrew people to leave Egypt, bringing an end to their years of painful slavery. Moses, who had become a symbol of hope and resilience, led his people through the barren expanses of the desert, where they faced the harshness of nature and the nameless fears that haunted them. Under the blazing sun of the desert, with his staff in hand and an unwavering faith in God's guidance, Moses guided his people forward on a journey fraught with hardship, but filled with hope for a better future. When the Hebrew people reached the shores of the Red Sea, they seemed to be trapped in a dead end with no escape. Before them lay the vast expanse of the sea, and behind them, the Egyptian army closed in relentlessly. All hope appeared lost. But Moses, with steadfast faith in the power of God, raised his staff high and parted the waters of the sea. In a miraculous moment, towering walls of water rose on either side, opening a path to freedom. The Hebrew people, filled with awe and fear, walked between the walls of water, bathed in the sparkling sunlight, creating an unforgettable and wondrous scene. After crossing the Red Sea and journeying deep into the desert, Moses led his people to the base of Mount Sinai, where he received direct guidance from God. Atop the sacred mountain, Moses stood alone in the awe-inspiring presence of the Almighty, and from him, he received the 10 Commandments, etched onto 2 stone tablets. These commandments were not just rules to live by, but divine promises from God, serving as a guiding light for the Hebrews in their new journey. Bathed in the divine light shining down from the heavens, Moses stood solemnly and powerfully, with the stone tablets in his hands, ready to lead his people along the path that God had laid out for them. Moses continued his mission over the course of 40 arduous years, leading his people through the barren desert. Under the relentless heat, they faced the most severe trials, from the thirst of water to the fears of an uncertain future. Yet Moses never gave up. He sowed the seeds of resilience and faith in a better future into the hearts of his people. Though he would never set foot in the promised land, what he left behind would forever live on in their hearts, as a bright beacon of hope amid the darkness of trials. In his final moments, Moses stood atop a high mountain, his eyes gazing toward the distant horizon where the promised land lay. He knew he would never set foot there, but he also understood that his journey had not been in vain. His eyes, though weary from the long years of leading his people, still shone with the hope that future generations would live a better life. A gentle breeze swept by, carrying with it the warmth of the boundless faith and love he had for his people. Standing there on the windswept mountaintop, Moses had fulfilled his mission, leaving behind a legacy that would never be forgotten.